Hello and welcome to another episode of the All About Ability podcast. Today we have a star-studded lineup, I would say. I'll give her all the credit I can here. Rianne Downey, now you are the first, I believe you're the first singer that we've had on the podcast.
Really?
Which is kind of a big moment. I'm branching out.
I'm totally chuffed at that. What an honour.
Well, I know it's so amazing to me because like the idea of singing seems so, it makes me even feel nervous, the idea of like singing in front of people and all that. Like I don't know how you do it, and we'll come back to that, right?
Cool.
Because I do want to talk about that, but I feel like it's such a hard thing to break out in, like to do well in, because there's so many people, like there's probably millions of people that say like I'd love to be a singer, and then to actually be in front of large crowds that are selling out and all that, like it must be amazing. And it made me think, like, was there a particular time, obviously this is like a dream of yours, you're doing it, was there like a moment where you started going, actually this is going all right, like people are actually listening to me here, like
it's a weird one because I've always sang. My mum says I could sing before I could speak, so it's like something that's always been in me, like that love for music. But I guess during lockdown when I started uploading covers, and then people were really like buying into it and loved what I was doing, and I started to like grow a genuine like fan base, I guess you could say. I hate that word, but like a following. I guess that was when I was like, oh, I have potential here. And then I signed a record deal with an indie label, and I started releasing my own music, and it never really sank in. I guess like I knew things were going really well, but I'm one of those kind of people that's always looking up like beyond the horizon. I'm always wanting to do better, and I'm dead competitive with myself. So sometimes I get lost, and I can't really stop and look at what's happening. But I guess the other night, on Saturday night, I played King Tut's, and the gig sold out in like 2 hours, and I had just been totally in my head for a few months and thinking like I'm a failure, I'm not doing anything, and comparing myself to other people, and just totally falling victim to my thoughts. But then I walked on stage at King Tut's, and the cheer that I got, and then for the full gig, everything I'd done, the crowd would just cheer, and that's when it clicked in my head, like, oh, I've actually got something going here. This is actually going really well. It's real. It's not a fluke now. All these amazing things that have happened have all meant to happen. So aye.
that's amazing. You've absolutely earned it.
Thank you.
And I'm fascinated by what you were saying there about how you were like kind of stuck in your head, because before we start recording, like usually we leave the deep conversation to actually recording the podcast. So we get into it a wee bit before that, and it's like just hearing you say that, like I mean, first of all, being on stage in that situation, like the adrenaline rush must be unreal. Like
yeah.
Like do you? People always talk about kind of getting addicted to that sort of feeling. Like does anything really compare to that when you're on stage and the crowd's going mental and it's for you, it's your name's on the thing?
Like, no, I've never felt a feeling like it. I think the closest I've got is when I got my dog, or when I passed my driving test. But even at that, random comparisons. But yeah, nothing can prepare you for that feeling. I spent the full tour, I think, except the first night, sober, because I didn't need a drink, because the reaction I got from the crowd was a buzz more than anything like physical could give me.
That's so interesting you say that about being sober and like kind of embracing how you were just feeling in that moment, because I've been sober for like the last sort of few months, right?
Oh, class, good on.
That's been like a specific goal of mine to try and, because it tends to I feel like it does take away for things, like if you're drinking too much or whatever, you just kind of the idea that initially it kind of gives you a buzz, but it just sort of fades away for your natural kind of buzz. And especially in our sort of culture, it's like it's sort of a thing where if you're not like regularly drinking, it's like, well, come on, have a fight, And,
yeah, if you're not doing that, you're not enjoying yourself, sort of thing.
And it's like, no, but I mean, why do you need to be drunk to enjoy yourself? Like,
Definitely.
kind of a thing.
It's such a weird mindset to have, but I think we all have it, and it's not until you actually stop and then you do something like I've played all the gigs on this tour sober. That's when you're like, when I'm having a drink, it's all kind of passing me by. Of course, it calms your nerves a bit more, and when I have a drink, I don't feel like I'm going to be sick before I go on stage. But you actually get to be in the moment, and then it sticks with you as well. When you're drunk, it's like you can forget. So I'm glad that I done it sober.
No, there's I do think it's interesting because I think that it's like there's a lot of I heard you talk on like other podcasts and stuff about how, you know, the idea of like actually doing something different, you know, because we're all kind of encouraged to sort of follow the sort of crowd, if you like, especially in Scotland. So the idea of like, I'm going to try and be a singer, you're like, aye, no bother. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, it's never the cool people in school that are wanting to be the singers, is it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I'm pretty sure that you're the cool one now, I think, maybe potentially. So,
well, I hope so. I'm still an umpty, but
but you were so what's in a couple of things you said there, you were talking about like when you're dealing with the sort of nerves before going on stage. Like see even just doing a podcast and that, I've got like sort of a routine in my head that I do beforehand. Like I make sure that I get a workout in, and I make sure that I'm drinking plenty of water, I get a workout in, and I'm like, I do something difficult so that my mind's at ease in some sort of way. I know that just sounds, I'm trying to find a right way of wording that, but basically like if I do like a 10k, right, then like I go, well, sitting down and having a conversation with somebody is not going to be as hard as this.
That's such a good way to deal with nerves. That's so smart.
It took me like 5 years of mistakes to get to that point. so don't think I'm, you know, it's like it's like constant human error, and then you'd be like, this doesn't work, this works, this doesn't. Because honestly, see, doing this after a workout compared to doing it when you're hungover, doesn't compare. So it made me wonder, like, is there anything specifically you do before a gig to like handle those sort of nerves that you've got? Because obviously it's like it's a big stage, and you know that everyone's there to see you, really. You know?
Yeah, it is a lot of pressure. But me and my band, we've got like a wee bit of a routine. We sound check, and then we'll go to the pub for a pint or just whatever, and then we'll go for our dinner. And then by the time we've ate our dinner, I'm like more focused on being too full up and hope I don't burp on stage or something. So I'm more so like I'll distract myself, and I'm quite a last minute person. So I'll come back for my dinner, and then that's when I'll get changed into my stage clothes. And by the time I've done that, it's time for me to go on. So it's like that way I don't really have enough time to think about it. And that's how I kind of cope.
Do you know what's really cool about that is you do notice in life when you just get stuck into the stuff you're doing, you don't have as much time to just overanalyze and overthink about things that you wish you'd done in the past or whatever. You just kind of get in the moment, in the routine of things, and that it's like that's how you become better at stuff. Like I think so many people spend time just pure being like, you ever just sit when you have time and you think of something awkward you did 5 years ago, and you're like, fuck, why did I do that?
I do that every single day. I feel like all I have is time sometimes.
But it's that's the kind of key to like when you're performing. It's like you kind of get in that rhythm of being like, right, this is what I'm doing. And you're talking about like your band. Do you think having that kind of camaraderie with them helps because they're in the same, like they're all there trying to help you, and it's like you've got your kind of team behind you? Yeah,
that helps so much because for a while, it was just me and my guitar, and that's really daunting. But having the boys there, and we've got like a wee kind of family unit now, and like they're all looking out for me, making sure that everything's sorted. Like even all the technical things on stage, making sure my guitar's plugged in, my pedals, stuff like that. It's just a total weight off your mind, and it's dead nice knowing that there's people there rooting for you, and then you've got other people to root for as well. It's all about like just building each other up and making the most of what you're all about to step into. So it is definitely a blessing to have the band there.
Helps you sort of embrace that the because it's hard. It must be hard to, because like you say, it's all kind of happened dead fast for you. So it must be hard to like take a minute to be like, this is actually happening now. You know, it's like it's all so. You hear that about people, like I've never really had time to think about it because you're always thinking about the next thing and the next thing. But try to actually stay in the moment and be like, this is pretty cool. Because you were talking then about how, you know, you were getting stuck in your head, sort of comparing yourself to people and that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? I mean, there was something I seen. See, when it comes to like singing,
Yeah.
I think people maybe underestimate. Do you think people underestimate the sort of physical element there is in terms of actually taking care of your voice and making sure that that's all right? Because I've seen like a lot of people going a bit mental at Lewis Capaldi the other day because he cancelled one of the events kind of last minute.
Yeah, I saw that. I think it was his European tour, wasn't it? I saw people going off their head as well. I think it's one of those things that obviously being able to sing, it has to be a wee bit of like a natural talent. You need to just have that kind of natural tone in your voice, and then over the years you kind of hone it and learn how to work your voice. And I went to singing lessons when I was younger, and it was all about actually learning how to use your voice safely, because there is different ways to strain it and all that sort of stuff. So I do think your vocal health is really important, and that's when it's like you can't let certain things like get you down, or you can't go into that way. Especially like for me, when I do start to overthink, I can go into like self-destruct mode and like just do stupid things like drinking more and even like bloody vaping, so, like stupid things like that. And then it's not until you go and play a gig and then you feel the strain in your voice, you're like, oh, hold on, this is my livelihood. I need to actually take a step back and take care of it. So yeah, it's before I play a gig as well, it's like all like tea, honey, different things for your throat. You do need to actually really prioritise it. And when your body, like in the case of Lewis Capaldi, when you're unwell and your body's kind of telling you to stop, you have to, because like I guess your vocal cords are so delicate, and if you play one more gig and sing a note wrong, not as in like sing the note wrong, like off key, like you just like strain a bit too much, that could be it. It's quite scary, to be fair.
See, that I think that's like, I didn't know any of that kind of stuff, right? And I think people are just like, why didn't you just sing, you know, why don't you just do it, you know, just do it. But like, maybe I don't think people that aren't involved in singing are not really aware of the fact that if you do that wrong, it can really damage your voice permanently, which is, you know, one gig for the sake of your whole career.
Yeah, it's not worth the risk, is it?
And so that's kind of why I wanted to ask you about that, because I thought, like, I'm sure singers probably have a different opinion on this than like your average fan. It's like, you cancelled on me last minute, I take it to Barcelona. You know,
I do definitely get where they're coming from, in the sense that they just don't understand the way the way it works, I guess. But I think they'd be a lot more upset if he played the gig and then could never play another gig again. Because I think your vocal cords they're like a muscle. So if you pull a muscle, you can't exercise. And
exactly.
If you pull your vocal cords, then aye.
Well, I mean, if I pull my hamstring, it doesn't make that much of a difference. So.
Oh. That was a good tune. Nearly went right over my head.
I was like, see, after you said, oh, there was a minute, like, see that second in my head, it felt like forever, because I was like, if she doesn't laugh here, then this has just killed the whole conversation. Like, it's went over the top of my head, and now I need to try and restart it without acknowledging the fact that I've just missed this joke. This joke just went totally sideways.
No, it totally landed. I think I'm just a wee bit slow. I think losing that hours totally knocked me stupid.
No, listen, me too. But no, like that's the first of many wheelchair jokes that you'll hear throughout this conversation. That tends to be a theme of the podcast. But so obviously I would have been a great stand-up comedian if I could do the stand-up bit, right? Do you know what I mean?
That's a good job.
I think that'd probably be my first line if I did it. It'd be like, I'd come on stage and be like, "This is your first ever sit-down comedy show. How's it going?" But back to the music, right?
Yes.
Like, it's really interesting how you're talking about if you're drinking too much, you're vaping, or you're not like articulately watching your health, it can affect your voice, and that actually requires a lot more discipline than people maybe realize. Like, to actually keep on top of that through, all your adult life and through it on the weekends, especially when you're the singer, you're always in that sort of what do you call it? Like, everyone that's coming to see you is coming to for like a party kind of thing.
Yeah,
So you're always like in that environment. Is it difficult not to kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, embrace that sort of rock star, old fashioned lifestyle, if you like, and just going mental all the time? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, to be fair, it is quite hard, because every time you play a gig, it's like it is that sort of party thing, and then once you've done it, you feel like you deserve to celebrate as well. But I guess it's a good thing that like basically every job that I do is like a celebration in a way. But it is hard not to fall into that. Especially as well because like my job full time is being a musician, so it's kind of easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, we just go to the pub after practice, that sort of thing. So I do need to be kind of strict with myself. I kind of fell into that trap for a while, and I during this tour, that's when I was like, I want to do it right, because you can feel the difference when you go on stage, when you're like mentally fitter, your voice is fitter, and you're just fitter as well, because you're not like drinking and smoking and like things like that.
You're able to sort of, I think you're able to bring more of yourself to the overall sort of performance, like, cause
Totally.
I mean, I'm saying that obviously as somebody that's only ever sang in the shower, but I can imagine that's because, especially when you're on a tour and there's loads of dates, and then you start realizing, like, when people are selling this stuff out, you're like, this is a full crowd. I need to bring everything I can to this.
Yeah, like they've paid their hard-earned money to come and see me. They've travelled from wherever to come and see me as well. So it's not like they don't owe me anything. It's what I bring to them now. So I need to be on my top form to make it worth it for everybody, and also to progress myself. Because if you go and you think like, oh, everybody's paid, it's sold out, like that's me sorted. That's where the hard work actually starts. You need to go and put on a good show and make sure that people are going to come back and people are invested in you as much as I'm invested in them coming to see me, sort of thing.
I think that's one of the reasons why you've been like so successful, is the fact that you care about your audience, your fans. Like, it's not. I think it's like, because when you realize this is something that you've always wanted to do and it's happening, like you said, you could like. I've been really guilty in my life, and I'm sure a lot of people have been like, I've done really well with this. This is great. Let's just kind of go through this for a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you've done really well, so let's just kind of undo all that and do something.
Aye, it's just like that's me sorted. I can die happy. Like, let's just do whatever. But then it's like you click and you go, no, I've done this. So if I can do that, then what else can I do? Because I try not to settle for things, because there is so many things that I've achieved now that, like, when I was away, or even just like 2-3 years ago, I would have only dreamt about. I never thought it would happen. But once you get to that point, it is easy to go, right, that's me done it. But if you've done that and you thought it was impossible, then what else can you do? It's more of a driving force for me now when I achieve the things that I kind of dreamed about.
No, that's amazing. It's really amazing. Like, and and I'm sure you want to do many more amazing things. But see, like, do you think, talking about something like confidence, right? Because we'd mentioned, like I said earlier, because this tends to happen, I'll mention a topic and then I'll get sidetracked to a whole different question. And then I'll watch the podcast back and be like, oh, mind that thing I was going to talk about 20 minutes before that? And then I forgot
Never
about
happened.
it. Exactly. So, as I was saying earlier before we start recording, we were kind of talking about, the idea of staying present and staying consistent and not necessarily letting your emotions dictate your actions.
Mm-hmm.
which of course it's easier said than done, isn't
Definitely.
it? But you know, when we talk about something like confidence, like, do you think it's like, you're obviously, when you go on stage, before you go on stage, you're nervous, and you're talking about how, you know, for like a few months there, you were kind of, before going on stage, you were kind of thinking, you know, you were overthinking, you know, overanalyzing things, comparing yourself to people, which I think is something that is a very common thing. But people that are your fans, like, maybe look at you and go, "Oh, Rianne doesn't, you know, she doesn't feel like that because she's a star, she's made it." Do you know what I mean?
I get what you mean.
And it's like, so hearing you talk about that to them, and to everyone else, is like, oh, if like that, it's something really interesting when you're doing a podcast. You realise everybody feels this stuff. It doesn't matter how successful you are or whatever you're doing, you're always constantly feeling this thing. So basically what I'm saying is, you think the idea of confidence is like an illusion? Because I feel like everything that I've ever done confidently has just been through me just sort of doing it. And like I think, what am I trying to say? How am I trying to put this right? My point is that like, everybody's nervous.
Yeah.
Even the person that sounds very confident is still a bit nervy about it all. So, you know, that actually, maybe that projection of confidence in itself, it just comes from you acknowledging that feeling of how of nervousness, but then choosing to act differently.
Yeah, I think
If that makes sense.
It does. It totally makes sense. It's like, I guess it's that kind of thing where it's like, fake it till you make it. That
Well,
sort
you made
of way.
it. Are you still faking it? Because you've made it.
I wouldn't say I've made it, but thank you. I think for me, it's like, I love music. I know that I'm capable of actually doing it. Like, I can play guitar, I can sing and hold a tune. I've wrote songs that people are listening to and they're buying and things like that. So there's a part of me that goes, you can't deny that you're good at this. But I don't totally feel confident myself. My thing is that I love it. I've always loved it. I know that I'm not good at anything else, and I think it as well, like, it would be a waste to ever let this amazing thing that's going on, like, it would be a waste to let it go. So I just put my blinkers on when I'm going on stage and just think, you're doing this because you don't want to do anything else. You don't want to ever settle for anything else. And I guess I wouldn't say it's confidence for me. I'd say it's more just like, I don't know. I don't even know what the word is. Determination.
Chasing the dream.
Yeah, I'm just chasing the dream. Like, it's all I want to do. So I'm not going to risk losing it. I've got nothing else to lose, so I might as well just do it.
What's really cool about that, right, is it's like, people, I think we all have maybe something that we want to go for, and it's like, you're saying you have nothing else to lose because there's nothing you'd rather do, and this is what I'm here to do, and I'm going to do it. Whereas a lot of people might go, this is what I really, really want to do, but I'm going to settle for doing something that I don't enjoy and I'm not too good at, but it's safer than actually going for it. And it's like, when you just, so when what I love about that answer is that it's not about the idea of being confident or faking it. It's just about, like, finding your passion and just chasing it, going for it.
Yeah, it's just about loving what I do.
which is such a, like, it's so easy to just be like, I'm not going to, it's too, because I think as well, see, as much as the feeling of making it, or the feeling of doing well in something that you love is an amazing feeling. I think a lot of people are scared of the idea of going for something that you love and not doing well and not making it. Yeah,
definitely. I'm terrified of failing. I think everybody's terrified of failing. But then at the same time, what actually is failing? Everybody has a different path, everybody's a totally different person. So just because something doesn't happen at this point in your life, or it doesn't go the way that you want it to, doesn't mean that you've failed. Who's to say that that's failure? Everybody just sets these expectations for themselves. But for me, it's just about, more than anything, doing what you love, getting to do what you love, not even for a living. I'm blessed that I do get to do it for a living, but just the fact that you can do this within your life, and then if other things come, then that's just like the icing on the cake, innit? I think that's, well, I can't say it's the path to success, because I wouldn't say I'm actually like dead successful yet, but it's...
You're doing not bad.
Thank you.
Not bad.
It's the path to, like, I guess, being content, because if you just get to do what you enjoy in your life, then I don't know, what more can you ask for?
Yeah, that's really well put. I think it
Thanks.
gives you a sense of peace in a way. There could be nothing worse than just sitting there going, I wish I was going for this thing. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I was trying to do this. You know, that's like me trying to take my first steps. It's not quite happened yet. we're almost there. I think we're almost there. But you know, one day at a time.
One day at a time.
Just for the record, that won't ever happen, and it was just another wee joke. But no, it's like, yeah, like going for it, and like I just listening to you talk about that, I think people just are so. When you made one thing you really said that really stuck with me is the idea of failure and how what is it, you know, because there's so many times in my life, and I'm sure everyone else's life, where you just feel like you're falling flat in your face.
Oh, definitely.
And there's no way, like, there's like, I've failed at this, and it's like, this is terrible. But really, what I've sort of found is that when you fail at something, or when you feel like you're kind of down in the dumps or whatever, there's a lot of learning that can happen in that. And if you're really willing to just, like, the hardest thing in the world is to look like inward and go, what's actually going on here? Like,
I agree.
what thing for high school am I carrying here? You know,
what childhood trauma?
Because I don't think it was because the date went badly. I think it might be because somebody bullied me in high school.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
I definitely, like, when I do something wrong, I just, like, I think about, like, I don't know, like, all the popular boys that would sit in the social area or whatever, and, like, when you're walking down the hallway, you're waiting on them, like, saying something to you, that sort of thing, and you're like, oh no, what would they be thinking now? And it's like, why is that relevant? But it's just like, it's ingrained in you, because at the time it was like the end of the world.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, how many of the boys are in your DMs now? Let's be honest. Let's be honest now. But no, it's so true. Like, no matter how well you can do, if you don't deal with that stuff, it can kind of haunt you.
Definitely. I'm starting to realise that now as I'm getting older, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but like a wee thing can go wrong, and then all of a sudden you're like having a breakdown, and then it's not until you, as you said, you actually look inwards and you go, all right, this happened that made me feel this way, and this is kind of similar to that, and it's bringing those feelings back, and then you're like, right, shit, I need to deal with this now.
Exactly. But see, I think the kind of eureka moment is when you recognise that.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you recognise that's happening, connecting those dots, then you start being able to deal with it, because you go, this is just this is a triggering reaction to this thing. It's not necessarily what's actually going on right now. It's more based on what I've already been through and having to just kind of deal with that.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because you can prioritise. Like, I think that for me, it was like a case of prioritising different things over myself for so long.
Aye.
You know, like, eventually you need to be like, see, if I take care of X, Y, Z in my routine, then everything else will be all right.
Definitely. I've spent like a lot of my time trying to sort other people and make sure everybody else is all right. But if I'm not all right, then you can't sort anybody else. It's like, I think it's like that thing. I think RuPaul says it, and it's like, if you can't love yourself, then how can you love anybody else? I know that's a bit extreme, but it is that sort of way. It's like everything else will eventually fall into place if you can sort yourself first, because in your world you're number one, aren't you?
Exactly. But as well, you're not number one in anyone else's world, really, because people love you, of course.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm saying that, but my mum's going to be listening to this being like, that's not true. That isn't true.
I know, my mum will be the same.
So the sponsor for this episode is Lab Solutions, who are a property maintenance company that's actually run by my brother. And listen, I might be better looking than him, but he's a great guy. and you should go and check out everything he does, because he's one of the hardest working people I know. And I'm always making sure that anyone that sponsors this podcast has the same intentions as me and is coming from a good place. And he definitely is one of the hardest workers I know. He will take care of everything you need, just in all those type of areas. And I just want you to make sure that go and check him out. Make sure that anything you contact Michael about, he'll be sure to help you and give you the best service that you need. Right, but the reality is that no one else knows exactly how you're feeling other than you.
Exactly.
And if you don't get in tune with that, like, no one else is going to be in tune with it, because you're the only one that can communicate that.
100%. I totally agree with that.
And it takes a long time to it takes a lot of quote unquote failures to sort of realise that.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think like life's just like one big problem solving game. Basically, it's just like, right, this didn't work, how do we do it now? And I just figuring out ways to basically like no survive. I know that again that's a bit extreme, but like survive and like, survive and thrive. Yes.
There you go. That could get like a slogan. I'm gonna get that on a t-shirt. Survive and thrive.
I'm gonna get that on the back of my merch.
No, that I really enjoyed what we were talking about there, but to go back to your performance for a second, right? Because there was a couple of things I was thinking about as I was kind of thinking about what we're going to be talking about and stuff, because I try and do some prep, even though people always ask me, like, how come you even got a sheet of paper in front of you? I
was actually thinking that. I'm so impressed that you've just like remembered everything.
I'm just that good.
Exactly.
Good. I'm also, as Paul would say, the most humble guy in podcasting.
Oh yeah, not one bit of ego. Not one bit of ego.
But what's funny is people probably hear, if people are listening to this first time, they'll probably be thinking, like, this is what I'm like all the time. But what's funny for me is that I enjoy being like this now, because it took me so long to have any sort of self-confidence that it's nice to actually see how we in one sentence we went from being an arrogant prick to being like, everyone just listened to that and went, oh. So there you go, that's what it's done. But no, it's like it's mainly because I think that the art of a conversation is actually listening to somebody as well, and not necessarily having specific things we want to go to. But I will ramble on if I don't go back to what I was going to talk about, which is when it comes to, we obviously talked about preparing for performing and stuff like that. But something that's really fascinating to me is the kind of creative process of, doing, writing the songs and sorting out what you're going to be singing, and like the actual songs that you come up with. Like, I don't know, I mean, when people write songs and things like that, like how you actually kind of sit down and go, put that together in your head and go, this is, because I got really into, was it Fuel to the Flame?
Yeah.
I got really into that song for ages. It was like one of my top Spotify songs.
Class.
Because I don't know if anyone knows this, but we started talking like a couple of years ago. I've been trying to get in the podcast for ages.
I know, it's been a long time coming.
But I'm glad you came on now, because we got a really fancy looking studio now.
I know, it looks class. I can't believe it.
Took a while to get there, but so you came on at a good time. You're doing well, we're doing well, everything's good.
We're thriving, surviving and thriving.
exactly. See, everything's coming together. But I was doing, some kind of workout vlogs, and I'm hopefully going to be in the back, but we wanted to put on songs in the background, and it was Paul, the producer Paul, as I like to call him.
Double P.
Exactly. I'm trying to create like my own personal, what's that? What's the person Joe Rogan has when he goes like that? Jamie, pull that up, Jamie. Pull that up, Paul. He was like, why don't you try, he mentioned a couple of people, he mentioned yourself, and he mentioned, I'm forgetting now, was it John Thomas or what?
Oh, Dylan Thomas.
Do you know what was funny about that when I said that? In my head, I'm going, it's because he's got 3 first names. That was what I was thinking. And I got 2 of them. It's like Dylan, John.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
And so I remember looking at your thing and thinking, she won't mess with me back, man. What's the point of this? She's got a big following and all that.
No, don't be daft. I was well chuffed.
I know it was really cool that you were so receptive to that. But it got me. I've been listening to songs again, and I'm just like, first of all, how is it like? What is the process like for you writing putting a song together, basically, for it all to sound the way that it sounds? Like, is that as difficult or as fun as performing? How does it compare?
It's I guess it's different from performing. There's a lot more or a different kind of thinking required, I guess, because you're actually like trying to construct something, I guess. But sometimes a song will take ages, and I really have to work at it, and it takes, I don't know, it takes a lot of mistakes, or I end up dead frustrated and walking away from it for a while, because I want it to be good, and I can't figure out how to do that. But then once you've actually got it all together and like you sing that like right chorus, you get the right melody or the right lyric, it's such a buzz. And you feel like, wow, I've just like wrote the best song in the world for like a split second. And then other times, like Fuel to the Flame, that song basically just like fell out of me. I had been listening to a lot of The Doors, and I loved the tune People Are Strange, and it was during lockdown, and I was kind of forgetting how to actually like exist and be a person. I think loads is where it's just like how do we do this like living thing again? And then I sat down and just was thinking about all my frustrations in life, like people that were no longer in my life anymore, like how I felt about myself, and I just started picking on my guitar, and I don't know why, but I'll add fuel to the flame just came out, and then everything else just kind of rolled after that. So it took me about like half an hour to write that tune, which is mental. There's no like, in my head, there's no rhyme or reason. It just happened, and that's when it's like really fun, because you're just like, wow, I didn't think I was that smart. Like, how is this happening? And it's dead exciting.
What is that is so cool. Like the first of all, writing that in half an hour, really impressive. Fair play. But you know, it's so interesting, because I feel like I've said so interesting a lot of times in this conversation, because I'm actually really fascinated by it. But like when you're talking about how it just sort of came to you, I feel like a lot of the really good, I mean, a lot of songs now, but a lot of like songs that do well come from actual, like, you can sort of feel the emotion in the song.
Yeah.
There's a feeling to the song that goes past the lyrics.
Yeah, I think that is why they do so well, because it is that way, but it is just emotion. You can't get any more raw, any more real than that. And I don't know about you, but the thing that makes me love music so much is that, like, just that feeling a song, feeling what the person's saying, and it's dead vulnerable, and it helps you kind of deal with your problems, because they're saying things that you can't put into words as well. So I think those songs that have like just fell out in 10 minutes are always like the best ones, because it is just like pure emotion.
Do you think that's like one of the more important things when it comes to writing a song, like actually being in tune with how you're feeling?
Yeah, 100%. I think you can kind of not see through it, but like you can feel when something's not 100% sincere, because there's songs that I've tried to write that will never see the light of day, and I've tried to be dead smart with my lyrics and stuff like that, and then I just listen back and I'm like, it could be anybody singing this. It could be a robot. It could be like an AI. Is that what it is? AI, like they make the pictures and all that online, because it's I don't know. It's just not. It's not authentic. That's the word. Or so I think. I totally forgot what I was saying there. Sorry.
That happens. No, you were just talking about how, like, being in tune with emotions when it comes to a song.
Yeah.
Being authentic about it, and I think obviously that is because you can definitely tell when, like you say, everybody. I think the thing that gets with music is everybody can connect through it in some way.
Yeah.
You can sort of like. I mean, I don't mean to use an example again, because this is not intentional, but people. When we talk about somebody like Lewis Capaldi's songs, like his songs tend to be quite deep in that way.
Definitely.
And people are always like, why doesn't he make more, I don't know, happy, funny songs? And his personality is quite kind of like that. But then you go, well, why? Like, if somebody doesn't feel, if somebody's feeling a certain way and that is going to allow them to write a good song, then that's what they should go for.
100%.
Because that's what gets you the audience in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah, you need to be like true to you, don't you? And as well, that I don't know about you, but most of my favourite songs in the world are the heartbreakers. Do you know what I mean? They're the ones that are dead deep. It's again, it's the kind of, not the sad songs, but like just the songs with like a lot of angst, a lot of frustration being let out, like or like the songs that are extremely like reflective and that are just deep, I guess. They're the ones that stick with you because they mean something to you.
Put some headphones on, have a good eat.
Aye, exactly.
That's what it's all about. But you know, talking about how, you know, you got into music and stuff like that, like we haven't really covered that because I know you've spoken about different things like that all the time. I try and talk about different things because then it becomes redundant for you. The podcast, you're like, I've answered this question 20 times. Could this guy do some research? Fuck's sake. But you were talking about, in one of the conversations I had before, you were talking about a teacher that had a particular influence on you in terms of making you think, I could actually give this a try.
Yeah.
And in a time where there wasn't really that many positive influences encouraging you to really go for it. And I'm forgetting his name, but I'm sure you know who that is.
Yeah, I do.
And the thing was about that is that so see now, knowing that person taking that chance, giving you that kind of impact on you, looking at that now, is there a want for you to want to do that for other people? Maybe have you ever had people like reach out to you and be like, I want to be a singer, but I'm not sure what to do, or I don't have the confidence? And is there a point in the back of your head going, how can I influence people the same way that guy influenced me to help do this?
Yeah, you know, I have had people messaging me, which is mental. But at the same time, I'm totally winging this full thing. Totally winging it. And that's the kind of advice I have for people is just to do it. Just I don't know, like sing your songs, put your videos up like I did, and see where it takes you. And I know it sounds dead cliche of the thing like never give up, but that's for me, that's the kind of strategy, is just do it. And I guess if you believe in yourself enough, so I wouldn't say I totally believe in myself. I do have my demons, my intrusive thoughts, but if you believe in what you're doing enough and believe in how much you love it and your passion, then eventually hopefully people will buy into that as well. And again, it might not be the dream of like the whole world, because I know for a fact most people that do dream about being a singer or whatever does have that wee flashing thought of like being the biggest star in the world. I know I have, but it is just that thing of like just believing in yourself enough, and if one person listens to your tune and it helps them, then you really have achieved something, I guess.
Absolutely. I think that's so well put again. And the biggest point for me in that is not everybody's going to have a little bit of self-doubt, but let your belief be stronger than your self-doubt.
Yeah, 100%.
That, you know, and if you do that, then you've got a good chance. Like you're because I mean, I think a lot of people get stuck on how do I do this? How do I go about going with this, right? And it's like you're too busy thinking about how to do it well when you just need to be thinking about just start it.
100%. I've been total victim to that. Even like when things have been going well, like over the last few months, I'm always thinking, how do I get better? How do I take it to the next level? And my a good pal of mine told me, you need to stop worrying about the things you can't control. And to be honest, you can't control if someone's going to like your song. You can't control if loads of people are going to hear your song. You can't to a certain extent, I guess, if you like, I don't know, pay to get. I'm just talking rubbish. I think you can like pay for listens or something like that.
Buy Instagram followers and that.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But you can't control getting organic
publicity.
organic publicity or like connection as well, like people liking your tunes, liking you for who you are, because there's always going to be people that don't like you as well, but I keep losing track of what I'm saying.
No,
but
I think, listen, it's a really good point for people to hear the fact that, you know, there's always going to be loads of things that you can't control.
Yeah.
And you can spend your life deteriorating away, getting so worried about everything that you can't control, but you're just spending less time not focusing on things that you can actually do.
Aye.
By doing that, do you know what I mean? It's
100%.
Like, you need to give your mind certain parameters and be like, this is what I'm in control of. And like, you might, you know, you could have like 100 people say that was the best tune ever or whatever, right? And then one comment will say that was right, and you'll think about that comment that said that was right.
Oh, aye, you definitely will.
Definitely. But it's like, you know, that probably is because that person's having a shite time. You know, do you know what I mean?
Aye, it's like that kind of way. I think people like that always need to try and bring others down to make themselves feel a bit better.
Exactly. And so, you know, it must be a hard thing to deal with in terms of actually, because as you get bigger, there's going to be those people that are like, that want to see you fail.
Yeah.
It's great.
You just, I guess you just need to get your blinkers on and again, try and focus on like the positives and all like the 100 people that are saying this is great. Because in the grand scheme of things, who's a couple of trolls saying whatever.
Exactly.
It's nothing.
Exactly. And it's not anything you can control anyway, as we know.
Aye, exactly. You just need to focus on, well, for me, I need to focus on myself and the music, and then whatever else you're doing in your life, you just focus on yourself and what you love. I
started to think about how, you know, as you're saying that, it's like, the way I like to put it now is everything else is just kind of noise.
Yeah,
like,
that's such a good way to put it.
You know, it's all just kind of noise, and as long as you're doing what you're doing, then the noise kind of, it gets louder, but also in a positive sense.
Aye, 100. Aye, that's such a good. Is that like a metaphor? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, and I only just thought of it right there and there. You know, This is why it's good to be sober.
This is why you're the best podcaster.
I'm going to clip that. That's getting clipped, mate. But no, it's also why it's good to be sober, by the way, because I would not be this sharp if I wasn't. If I was drunk right now, we wouldn't be having this kind of conversation. Oh, I don't even want to know where the conversation would have went. You can't really drive a wheelchair, it doesn't really work out. You steer into poles and all that type of shit. Oh, jeez. You know? Okay, all sorts of stories like that. That's a different time in my life. That wasn't when I was the best podcaster, but I was the best drinker. You know? But going back, so as you were talking, I didn't mention the teacher. I was curious, do you still talk to him? Do you ever reach out to him and be like, hello, I've been talking about you on all these podcasts and how much of an influence you had on me? Do you know, I've not reached out for a long time, but I was looking at our old text the other day, funnily enough, that I was quite taken aback when you brought him up there. But I will be getting in touch with him now. It's all felt a wee bit meant to be there. Oh, there you go. But I'll always be so grateful for him. He was the kind of person, I'm dead lucky. I've got a dead supportive family, and they've always cheered me on. But he was a person that was like, this could happen and it could be real. That sort of thing. And he was like the first person that actually made me feel like cool. That's amazing. It just shows you how much one positive influence can change your life. Oh, totally. Especially at that time in your life when you're in school and you're a bit alienated and you kind of, I think, especially when you're just sort of figuring out who you are, and somebody just goes, you can do this. The difference between him saying you can do this compared to being like, you can't do this, can literally change your whole life. Yeah, it can totally change the course of everything, because especially in high school, because you are so impressionable and you're just trying to navigate your way through the world. So if someone's there going, look, all these things that you've been dreaming about since you were away and they're not that far out of your reach, then it's amazing, because you're like, right, okay, let's give this a try then, because you're young enough to be like, I've not got anything to lose at this point. Right, well, I think if anyone's listening, so basically what we're saying is, if anyone's listening and doesn't have that teacher at school and is in that age bracket, we believe in you. We're saying
Aye.
we should go for it, right? You should go for it. Rianne's the perfect example of why you should just go for it, and I'm the example of why you should pick up a microphone.
Exactly.
But obviously, totally different meanings there. You're a great singer. I'm a great bullshitter. So it all kind of works out. But so there's a couple of other wee things I want to cover. One being, which is probably a bit of a different thing that you've probably never really spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought about, I like to bring disability in the conversation quite a bit in the podcast, out with, of course, the continuous wheelchair jokes. In a more serious manner, because obviously in relative terms you're a pretty big deal. Yeah.
Oh,
and
thanks.
when it comes to the music industry, one thing that really grinds my gears everywhere because it's bad everywhere, but the accessibility at venues is pretty pish.
Oh, 100%. I totally agree. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking.
And so I'm kind of going, well, how do we even get about trying to make that? Because I think us talking about it at least hopefully makes some of your fans and all the ability people out there think, is this something that we can try and at least discuss and look at? Because I love going to concerts and that, and I love the idea of going to one of yours and different people that I know, and it's like, but you're not actually, even if it is okay access wise, you don't really get to be part of you still feel like you're kind of watching it on TV.
Yeah.
Because you're not in the crowd, you're kind of in a separate bit, and I get that to an extent, but there should probably be a better way of making the atmosphere, like making the person feel like they're actually at the concert.
100%. I think it seems like with certain venues, it's like they're making their own lives easier. It's like, right, if we have this designated area that's out of the way, we've got no trouble. It's like that, and it's not fair to the people that actually want to be part of the gig. Like that's why they're buying a ticket, and they deserve to be as part of the gig as much as anybody else. So it is trying to figure out that way of how do we incorporate that. And yeah, it might be a bit extra work for security or anything like that, but it's totally worth it, because at the end of the day we are all the same. We all deserve to be part of this thing and share the joy of being at a gig.
100%. Do you ever get people with like disabilities and that message you and be like, as fans, and being like, whether in a wheelchair or whatever, just coming, just like, because is that something that you've ever thought about, the idea of like, how would somebody that enjoys my music come to this concert if they can't get in here or there's too many steps or whatever?
Yeah, at Christmas I went to go and see a wee pal of mine, Jamesy, and I went and sang a few songs for him on Christmas Eve, and it was brilliant. And all I wanted to do was say, come and see me at King Tut's, and that could be like part of his wee like Christmas thing. But I couldn't, because there's no way for him to get in his wheelchair, and it's gutting, because like he's a young guy that loves his music, and he can't come and see, like, not to toot my own horn, but like one of his favourite artists, and even as well, like, being on this tour over the last week, every single load in, there's just been stairs after stairs. My bassist just says, everywhere you go, it's stairs. And I know a lot of these venues are old and things like that, but it's just gutting. And you think it would be so obvious that making it accessible for everyone would be a priority. You really would. I wish I did have the power to be able to allow everybody into my gigs, but hopefully it is. Even like us having this conversation, it's just raising awareness that there's a whole demographic of people missing out on things that they should never have to miss out on. It's not their fault. It should be down to the venues accommodating.
No, 100%. And I think like even you just talking about it like that can have an impact more than you know, because it doesn't get it's not something that gets covered or spoke about. So
It's not at all, you know, actually.
And see, even just you saying the expressing that and being like, why is this happening? People, it allows, even if like 50 people hear that and they're like, that is something I've never thought about. It allows us to get that little bit further along in the idea of trying to make it into something bigger and better, because, you know, it's more than just not having access. It takes away from somebody's life experience. The biggest problem I used to have, like, to give people some idea of where I'm coming from this, because I think people just think, like, it's a few stairs, like, kind of get over it, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
And it's easy saying that when you can walk right enough, but
Aye, definitely.
but it's kind of a, like, you know, oh, where was I going to go with that? Fuck. My point is that when you're actually wanting to do these things, oh, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say with this. Is that being in a wheelchair, right? Like, you kind of don't. Oh, I this is going with, yes,
Class.
Thank God.
Let's go.
I was really getting on to myself. I was going to say, I think that you don't get the chance to sort of, it's not something, I've been in a wheelchair my whole life, right? It wouldn't actually actively bother me that much. So I used to think that being in a wheelchair was my fault, because society, like, the world kind of tells you, like, oh, if you could walk, you'd be normal. You know what I mean? It's you that's the problem. Like, you're making it difficult for us by being this way.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
But that is kind of the way that even in people in running things and making decisions would probably be like, absolutely not, that's not how we see it. And fair enough, maybe people don't see it like that, but it's still what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, because it's I can't control the fact that I can't walk, but you can control the fact there's not a ramp here.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So that's on you. That's not on me. Whereas what I think happens a lot of the time that gets turned on us is being this burden on society, being this thing of, why are you making this difficult for our organisation or our whatever? And it's like, no, mate, I didn't get to choose this, so you can't put that on me. And the reality of it is as well is, like, we're both kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, in the prime of our lives, right? But as we all age, we all get old. That is a reality of life, right? And in that process, you're going to become less able than you are right now. It's not like, you know, and I wouldn't wish that on them, but it's just a reality of life. That's what happens. Right? So the fact that happens to everybody, regardless, you're going to need assistance at some point in your life, more so than you do now, whenever that may be. So this idea that not making it accessible is saving some sort of money, it's actually just alienating people for society. That's where it becomes, like, that's why people put disability and the elderly in the same bracket, because we're seen as, like, the same sort of burden. Like, once you get older, you're less able, so it's like, let's just put them aside a wee bit here. Yeah. And it's like, but that's so absurd to me, because two things. One thing is, we all get old, so that the idea of that is just mental. And then,
exactly.
And the other thing is as well is, I'm in a wheelchair, you're not, but you're, like, anything can happen to anybody. It's this idea that we're just, if you're born able to do things, you have this innate entitlement to be like that. And you think that's just the way it is, but anything could happen that could change it at any moment. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, definitely.
So, you know, it's not just a case of me saying, you know, let's put some more ramps, and people are just, it's so easy to just be like, what's the big deal? But it is a big deal, you know.
It's a big deal. It's people's lives that they're dealing with, and it's mental to me that, like, another human can say that another human isn't worthy when we're the exact same, and we come in this world the same, we leave this world the same. So who is anybody to say, no, like, you're too much of a hassle, you're this, you're that? It's totally unfair. It's them that's being the hassle. Do you know what I mean? It's those people that are thinking they're above everyone else that are the hassle.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's very well put. And it's like, it's the, you know, we all need to fight for each other in a way, because everybody goes through something, and at some point in your life, even if you're on top of the mountain, you get everything you'd ever want, at some point you're going to be falling flat in your face, and you need somebody to speak up for you and say that this isn't right. Like, this is what the kind of point of the podcast when I initially started was like feeling as though these types of things were just had no voice to them. There was no, like, we were just seen as like the aliens of society, I feel like, and it's just like, that's even today, there's people that feel that way just out of not seeing people in wheelchairs, not knowing about them, and that isn't the fault of them, it's the fault of our lack of coverage, our lack of inclusion. This push for equality
100%.
doesn't seem to include disability all that much. You know, if you've seen more disabled people on the telly and in music, doing comedy, any sort of field, if you've seen them more in the public eye, then they would be less we would be less stigmatized. And so it's not through having the disability that alienates us, it's through the way that the disability is perceived.
100%. Yeah, I totally understand that. I was watching a TED talk, and it was a girl who has autism, and what she said really stuck with me, and I think it could kind of relate to people with disabilities. And she says, my autism isn't the problem. I'm learning to live with that. I can deal with my autism. It's the way that the world deals with me that makes it so hard. And I thought that was so powerful, and it totally opened my eyes, because it is that thing of worrying about how other people are going to perceive you, worrying about how other people are going to treat you, not just in terms of how they like speak to you and things like that, but how they actually accommodate to you and your disability. Because like I said before, everybody deserves the same treatment. So the fact that like society can just alienate a group of people that are just the same as us, it's wrong. There's no other way to put it.
I love it. That's good to know. No, that was so well put. Like, see, when you went at that point, I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about, man. And it's like, see, even just the more people that can even just start to begin to understand that, it just helps everything. I'm not going to change that. I mean, why can't I really? But my point is that what I'm doing is that I'm opening the door for the conversation to at least begin, because that's what's, you know, it's missing. Like, it's becoming. But the point is that the point you just made there is like exactly what I'm trying to articulate throughout this, is that it's how the world perceives it. I mean, I've seen this. I was watching a TikTok as well quite a while ago, and there was this thing that I thought was brilliant and hilarious. It was like, I used to see this quote, it was like, the only disability in life is a bad attitude.
Yeah.
And I actually used to really believe that, because I used to kind of resent being disabled a little bit because of how the world seen it.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, as long as I've got a good attitude. But what this woman was saying, which I thought was just brilliant, was like, no amount of smiling at a flight of stairs is going to turn it into a ramp. So, you know, my attitude isn't going to make places accessible.
Yeah.
You need to make it accessible. And I think all this inspirational, motivational stuff is a way of sort of, you know, taking the impetus off of actual change that needs to be made.
Mm-hmm.
By saying,
100%.
if we call you motivational and inspiring, then you can kind of ignore the fact that we haven't fixed this lift for the past 3 years or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Those kind of things. Because I want to go to the concerts and that, people, and
the thing is, we want you there as well. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And that story as well, you said about going and singing those songs to the guy, was really cool.
Oh,
And the fact he did that,
it was an honour to be able to do it. It meant the world.
he must have had it. I mean, I just like hearing that, I was like, that's the kind of stuff. That's when you know you're one of the good guys. You know what I mean? I'm like that. Yes. Celtic fan, eh?
I try not to venture into that too much. I'll lose a bit of my audience.
Neither I try my best, but you know, I mean, come on, look at me. I'm not,
The room's green.
Exactly. So what was I going to say? So this has been a really fun conversation, and I want to kind of end on what, you've kind of mentioned throughout this conversation, you said about how, you've not quite made it yet. There's a lot of things you want to do. And that says a lot for your mindset, because if I was you, I'd be like, I fucking read it, man. Like, I'm good. You know what I mean? But like, so it just shows you where your mind's at. But in your head, what are your sort of goals for the future? What are you thinking? Like, now that you've achieved a lot of your sort of dreams up to this point, have you now sort of like reset them and went, this is what I want to do next? And what is that? Tell us.
I guess the main dream is to be, or the sensible dream, I guess you could say, is to be able to do this and make a living off of it and see the world while I'm doing it. That's like when I know that I've actually made it, I guess. It doesn't always matter about the size of the venue to me. It's just the fact that I can play music to people for a living and live kind of comfortably off that. But my dream as well is to sell at the Barrowlands. That would be the one. That's the one I've still to achieve.
I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't achieve that sooner rather than later. So if there's ever a show at the Barrowlands, everybody go buy a ticket to that and we'll get it done. But no, look, this has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
I've had a class time as well. Your questions have been so good as well.
Oh, thank you, because
Thank you.
I've got a photographic memory, so I don't actually, by the way. I'm just saying. But no, we've waited on you for a long time, and you've been well worth the wait.
Oh,
and
thank you, Kieran.
I had a lot of fun, so thank you again, and I wish you all the success in the world. And I think that you're going to go to do even bigger and better things. So,
thank you.
but just remember when you make it even bigger, come back on. Come back.
100% will.
Come back on.
100% will.
And I'll hold you to that, right?
Aye. Hold me to it. My hands are up.
Thank you so much for doing it, and I appreciate you coming in.
Oh no, thank you so much for having me.